It started with a flash, the bright kind that wipes out the sky and makes shadows vanish. The ground trembled for a full minute. Animals scattered. People screamed. Then came the silence. Not peace, but the kind of silence that meant something worse was coming. Jace Miles stood at the edge of his ruined base, boots caked with red Martian dust, watching the broken horizon. A communication tower lay like a snapped bone in the sand. Smoke curled from where the fuel depot used to be. His fingers trembled not from fear, but from rage. Someone had attacked them without warning. No signal, no demand, just destruction. He wasn't alone. The survivors around him, only a dozen, now moved slowly. Shock made their movements mechanical. They were part of an Earth UN peace mission to the neutral colony of Varela Prime. Their job was simple. Set up comms, build relationships, report back. But no one expected a war, not here. Behind Jace, Corporal Rena Maddie limped across the dust. Her uniform was burned at the shoulder, and she had blood on her cheek. "The command tent's gone," she said. "We've got maybe 2 working rifles, 1 medkit, and no signal." Jace didn't answer. His mind was racing. There was only one group that could have done this. Not pirates. Not locals. It had to be the Prakans, an alien race that hated Earth's presence near their side of the neutral zone. "Scan the edge," Jace muttered, eyes narrowing. They never hit just once. Suddenly, a soft humming sound began, low, pulsing. Getting closer. Not an engine. Not a ship. Something breathing. A moment later, they saw her. A single figure moved through the smoke and dust. Slender, tall, not human. Her skin shimmered faintly under the 2 moons' metallic blue, with patterns like starlight running over her arms. She wasn't armed, she wasn't armored, and yet she walked calmly toward them. Rena raised her weapon. "That's Prakan. Tech on her. She's one of them." "Wait," Jace said, stepping forward. "She's not attacking." The alien stopped a few meters away, hands open, eyes glowing like fireflies. "I'm not your enemy," she said softly. Her voice carried, clearly, like it wasn't bound by air. "You're Prakan," Jace said, fists clenched. She tilted her head. "Half. My father was human. My mother is high caste," Rena hissed through her teeth. "A hybrid." The alien girl looked down for a moment, then back up. "I didn't come to fight. I came to help. You're in danger here, more than you know." Jace didn't trust her. Everything about this felt wrong. But his gut told him she wasn't lying. And they had no backup. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Sayari." Before he could speak again, a deep sound boomed through the air. A horn, warlike, echoing, then another blast farther off and another. "Scouts," Sayari said quickly. "They found you." "You don't have time." "Where should we go?" Rena barked. "Underground," Sayari replied. "There's a safe tunnel network beneath the ridge of Virel. I can take you there." Jace looked at the others, scared, wounded, some too weak to run. They didn't have a choice. "All right," he said. "Lead." Sayari moved fast but careful, always scanning the sky, listening. Jace noticed the way her hair shifted color as they moved through light pale silver and shade, warm gold under the moons. She didn't speak much, only gave warnings when to duck or stop. She moved like a ghost, silent fluid. After nearly an hour, they reached a metal grate half buried in red sand. Sayari pulled it up and jumped down first, landing with barely a sound. The humans followed one by one. Inside was another world. Cool, damp, and lit by soft bioluminescent stones embedded in the walls. Alien writing marked the stone corridors. Jace noticed the air was filtered, fresh even. Not abandoned. "This place is," he began. "My people use it as a retreat during solar storms," Sayari said. "But this sector hasn't been active in years. You're safe here." They walked deeper until they reached a chamber with curved walls and carved benches made of smooth stone. Water flowed along narrow channels in the floor, feeding into pools that glowed faintly. It was strangely peaceful. Rena collapsed onto a bench. 2 others followed, coughing. Sayari turned to Jace and gestured to one corner. "The water's clean. You should wash." "The dust here clings to wounds," Jace frowned. "I'm fine." She stepped closer, a small smile on her lips. "Mind if I scrub your back, human?" "Shared showers are normal here." Jace froze. Around him, a few others glanced over with raised brows. Rena snorted under her breath. Sayari wasn't mocking him. She was sincere. But the tension in the room thickened. No one expected kindness, especially not from someone part Kraken. Jace met her eyes. "We're not used to that where I come from." "I know," she said softly. "But you will be soon." He didn't know what she meant, but something in her voice told him this war was far from over, and she wasn't done surprising him. They sat in the dim light of the lower chamber, the stone ceiling barely 2 meters above their heads. The walls pulsed faintly with bioluminescence, but the glow had grown weaker since the drone attack. There was no water here, no soft sound to calm them, just silence and the scent of ancient air. The deeper they went, the more the place felt like a forgotten tomb. Jace leaned against the cool stone wall, watching the others rest. Some were sleeping, some whispering. Rena cleaned her rifle again and again, even though it barely worked. He turned toward Sayari, who crouched near a small control node embedded in the wall, her fingers tapping lightly across glowing symbols. "Anything?" he asked. "I'm trying to seal off the upper chamber completely," she said without looking at him. "The drones are still searching. They're designed to hunt by sound and heat. If one gets close enough, even your breath could trigger it." Jace exhaled slowly through his nose. "Great." He stepped closer. "You sure you're not just leading us into a trap?" She turned her head and met his eyes. "If I were, you'd already be dead." He didn't have a comeback for that. Still, the question hadn't come from suspicion, it came from fear. Not of her, but of everything. The sudden war, the dead friends. The idea that Earth might retaliate before understanding. What really happened? What happens if we can't get this data to the top? He asked, nodding toward the crystal shard she'd given him earlier. Sayari straightened slowly. "Then war comes. Not like this small skirmish, but full invasion. Earth will send orbital fleets. The Prakan Council will unleash dreadships. Your colony worlds, your moon outposts, they'll all burn." Jace swallowed hard. "Then we better move." Sayari didn't move. "No, not yet. We're too weak, too loud. I've called for someone." "You what?" "I have an ally. She's not human, but she doesn't follow the council. She knows how to get you off this planet without being seen." Rena stepped in, arms folded. "You could have mentioned that earlier." "I didn't know if I could reach her," Sayari replied. "Now I know she heard me." "How?" Sayari tapped the stone wall. "This whole tunnel system was built on ancient Varellan tech. Bio-woven stone. It remembers vibrations. Our messages don't travel through air, they travel through memory." Jace blinked. "Okay, that's insane." Sayari gave a soft smile. "So are you. You stayed behind to protect survivors. I've never seen that before." Before Jace could reply, a soft scraping sound echoed from the dark corridor ahead. Everyone froze. "Don't shoot," Sayari said quickly. Out of the shadows stepped a tall figure, even taller than Sayari, wrapped in deep violet armor, curved like scales. The face was covered with a veil of fine mesh, only the eyes visible bright green and glowing. She moved like a wind with weight. Sayari bowed her head slightly. "This is Kalari, my cousin." Kalari's voice was soft but firm. You brought humans here, Sayari. That is punishable by death. Jace stepped forward. We didn't ask to be here. Kaleri looked at him. No, but now you are. Rena raised her gun. You try anything, we're not going down easy. Sayari stepped between them. Enough. Kaleri, I gave him the truth, the proof. If Earth sees this, the war might be stopped. Before it begins, Kaleri was silent. Then she reached behind her back and pulled out a folded map made of living tissue. She tapped it once, and it unfolded into the air like a hologram, showing tunnels, vents, and old paths leading toward the northern ridge of Varela Prime. This route, she said. Abandoned, dangerous, but it leads to an old landing bay. If they still have power, you can steal a ship. Jace studied the glowing path. How long to get there? Kaleri turned to Sayari. 3 days, if you survive. Jace looked at his team, tired, some injured, barely enough rations for 2 days. We'll do it. Kalari's eyes narrowed. You're stubborn. Human thing, I know. She turned to Sayari. You walk with them, you're done with us. No coming back. Sayari nodded. Then I won't come back. Kaleri didn't respond. She simply faded back into the shadows. They packed quickly. Whatever little gear they had left, they wrapped in cloth. Jace strapped the data crystal under his armor. Sayari walked beside him, quiet now. But her expression was sharp, alert, ready. As they stepped into the old passageway, the air turned colder. No more glowing stones. Just darkness and breath. Jace's voice broke the silence. 3 days to stop a war. Sayari glanced at him, and only one mistake to start it. And so they marched into tunnels no human had ever walked, hoping the end held something better than fire. The tunnel narrowed as they moved forward, forcing them to walk single file. The walls were smooth in some places, jagged in others, like a mixture of design and collapse. The air felt colder the deeper they went, but it wasn't just temperature, it was the kind of cold that whispered things from the past. Old things. Forgotten things. Jace led the group, his hand brushing the wall occasionally, more for balance than comfort. Behind him, Sayari followed quietly, always watching, always listening. Her presence felt like a guide in the dark, like she knew the tunnel better than anyone, even though she moved cautiously too, as if the ground might betray them. Behind her came Rena, limping but stubborn, followed by the rest of the humans, wounded, exhausted, but trying to keep their steps quiet. No one spoke much. Every echo felt like a risk. How far till the next rest point? Jace asked in a whisper. Sayari glanced at the markings on the tunnel wall. Another kilometer. There's a hollow pocket carved by the ancients. Used for meditation, but we can sleep there. Any more drones down here? She shook her head. Not likely. The deeper tunnels weren't mapped in modern cycles. Even the council avoids them, Rena snorted from behind. Makes me feel so much safer. An hour later, they reached a dome-shaped chamber covered in old vines. Glowing insects fluttered gently around the edges. The floor was soft moss-like and cool under their boots. Everyone collapsed almost at once, like the air itself gave permission to fall. Jace sat with his back against a curved stone pillar. He pulled off his outer vest and let his head drop back. I don't think I've ever been this tired. Sayari sat beside him. That's because you haven't been hunted underground before. He gave a small grin. You're full of comforting words, you know that. I do, she said, smiling faintly. For a moment, they both just breathed in the quiet. It wasn't peace, but it was something like it. Then Jace asked the question that had been sitting in his gut since Kalari's warning. Why help us? Really? You said it's about stopping the war, but that's a big risk for someone like you. You've given up everything. Sayari didn't answer right away. She pulled something from around her neck, a small carved stone, smooth and oval, with a crack down its center. This was my mother's, she said. She was Prakan nobility, very strict, very proud. When I was born, they didn't know what to do with me. My father was human, an ambassador who got caught between sides. They let me live, but I was never allowed to leave the lower cities. I was ashamed they wanted to forget. Jace studied. Her face, there was no anger in her voice, no tears, just a tired honesty. So I ran, she continued. I learned to survive outside both worlds. But when I heard about the attack on your base, I knew it wasn't official. I knew something bigger was hiding behind it. And I thought maybe, if I stopped it, I'd finally belong somewhere. Jace reached out slowly, touched the cracked stone in her hand. Maybe you already do. She looked at him. Their eyes held for a moment. A strange warmth passed between them, but it vanished as fast as it came. Suddenly, the soft glow of the chamber flickered. The insects darted away. The moss on the floor stiffened. Jay stood immediately. Something's wrong. Sayari's eyes widened. Something's near, something alive. Rena grabbed her rifle. If it's another war drone, I swear. Then the wall cracked. It wasn't an explosion, not like before. It was slow, like a claw pressing through soft clay. Out of the stone came a figure 8 feet tall, thin like bone wrapped in metal. It wasn't a drone. It was alive. Its head turned slowly, sensing them. No eyes, just a glowing core in its chest. Run, Sayari whispered. That's a scavenger. What the hell is a scavenger? Jace demanded. An ancient defense unit, not Prakan, not human. It was built by the ones who made these tunnels. The creature screeched high and sharp, like metal tearing, and lunged forward. Scatter, Jace shouted. The group dove in every direction. Rena opened fire, but the bullets sparked uselessly off its skin. Jace rolled behind a fallen pillar and pulled his knife, not that it would help. The scavenger swung one long blade-like arm and cut a piece of the wall clean off. Sayari grabbed a glowing crystal from the wall and held it up. Here, I can distract it. Are you crazy? Jace shouted. Trust me. She ran across the chamber, waving the crystal. The scavenger locked onto her and chased her down a side tunnel. No, Jace moved to follow, but the tunnel collapsed behind her. Stone and dust blocked the way in seconds. Sayari! He shouted. No answer. Rena grabbed his arm. We have to go. She bought us time. He clenched his jaw, breathing hard, chest tight. Then he looked toward the map Kalari gave them, toward the path Sayari had cleared for them. He didn't want to leave her, but if they stopped the war, maybe, just maybe, they'd have a chance to come back for her. They moved on, hearts heavier than ever, deeper into the dark, where answers and danger waited. They walked in silence now, the kind of silence that had weight, like something heavy pressing on their shoulders with every step. Sayari was gone, the one who knew the tunnels, the one who knew where to turn and where not to. Now they were just guessing. Jace clutched the folded tissue map Kalari had given them, his eyes scanning its shifting symbols as the path narrowed into twisting forks. Which way? Rena asked, her voice low but firm. He pointed left. Downhill slope. According to this, it leads toward the vents. How sure are you? 50%. That's a coin flip, Jace. I know. They moved anyway. The tunnels here were older, untouched by modern alien hands. The walls pulsed slowly, like the place still breathed in its own way. Strange symbols etched into the stone flickered when passed, as if reacting to human presence. Sometimes they heard whispers, never clear words, just feelings. Hunger, grief, memory. Rena called it creepy. Jace didn't disagree. Behind them, the group was smaller now, 8 total. 2 had died during the drone attack. 1 was badly injured from the scavenger's energy pulse, carried on a makeshift sling by 2 others. They were running out of water. Food was crumbs in a bag. Time was against them. But what kept them moving was the same thing that haunted them. Sayari. Jace couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she risked everything. The way she stood in front of the scavenger like she didn't care if it killed her. Like she'd already made peace with her decision. He didn't know if she was alive, and that made every step harder. Hours passed. Or maybe more. The tunnel twisted into a wide shaft with a metal platform stretching across it. Below was black nothingness. No bottom, no sound. "This doesn't look safe," Rena muttered. "It's the only way," Jace said, stepping onto the platform. The old metal groaned but held. One by one, they crossed. Halfway through, a tremor shook the structure. Rena nearly fell, catching herself just in time. "We need to move faster," she snapped. They made it across, hearts pounding, just as another quake echoed through the stone. Dust rained from above, and then something changed. The wall. A head cracked open slowly, not from pressure, but from design. A circular door spun inward, revealing a chamber beyond. But this one wasn't like the others. It was bright, clean. Technology hummed softly in the walls. The air smelled sharp and sterile. "What the hell is this place?" Rena whispered. Jace stepped inside, eyes wide. Rows of tubes lined the chamber, each filled with translucent blue liquid. Inside the tubes were figures humanoid. Some looked human, some alien, some in between. And all of them were asleep, or dead. Rena shivered. "Is this a lab?" "It's something more," Jay said, approaching one of the tubes. Inside was a young female figure. Her features were a blend of earth and Praken. Her eyes were shut. Her hands folded. Her body floated like glass. "This looks like a stasis chamber," Jay said. "Not death. Preservation." He checked the control panel. It wasn't in any language he knew, but as his fingers brushed it, the symbols reshaped into English. System status, stasis functional. Energy low, biological index, Varellan hybrid series project, Unity, Jace whispered. "They were making hybrids here." Rena stood beside him. "Why?" "Peace," Jace said slowly. The Varellans were trying to create a species that could live on both sides, to stop the war before it even started. Suddenly, a loud hiss filled the room. One of the tubes depressurized. The glass cracked and water spilled onto the floor. Everyone pointed weapons toward it. The figure inside slumped forward, coughing, gasping. Eyes fluttered open silver blue, glowing faintly. It was Sayari. She collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Jace rushed forward. "Sayari." She looked up at him, dazed. "You made it." He knelt beside her. "How?" "We saw the tunnel collapse. I ran. Deeper. The scavenger chased me, but I activated a failsafe. The system pulled me into an emergency pod. I've been asleep, maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time is strange in stasis." Rena helped lift her to her feet. "You scared the hell out of us." Sayari gave a faint laugh. "I scare myself sometimes." Jace stepped back, still in awe. "Why are there others here, like you?" Sayari touched one of the nearby pods. They were part of the first attempt. Hybrids created by the Varellans. Before the council banned them. They were locked away, silenced. But they're not just experiments. They're keys. "Keys to what?" Rena asked. "To peace," Sayari whispered. "Or to war, if they fall into the wrong hands." Jace's heart pounded. "We have to get this place documented. Send it back to Earth. The council can't hide this anymore." Sayari looked at him. "Then we protect it. No matter what comes next." Outside, something groaned in the tunnel again. And Jace knew they didn't have much time before someone, or something, came looking. Asterisk. The stasis chamber's lights dimmed again. Power fluctuations were growing worse, and Sayari leaned heavily on Jace as she stood. The others watched the sleeping hybrids in the tubes with a strange kind of awe and unease. "They've been here for decades?" Rena asked. "Longer," Sayari replied, her voice hoarse but steady. "Some for over a century. These tunnels were once a refuge, then a prison. Now, they could be a spark." Jace moved to the nearest control panel, reading. The translated display. "Energy levels are dropping. If the backup core dies, these pods will fail." Sayari nodded. "That's why we have to move. The old landing site isn't far. If we can reach it, you can get this data and these records off-world." "What about the others?" Jace asked, glancing at the hybrids. "We can't wake them." "All," she said sadly. "Not now. But if we succeed, Earth and Praka may have no choice but to listen." Rena stepped up beside them. "Then let's move before the Council or more drones figure out we're still alive." They moved fast this time, Sayari walking with support from Jace, guiding them through shorter paths buried behind the old lab. The tunnel sloped upward now. Air vents opened more frequently. They were getting closer to the surface, but with every step forward, the tension grew. They weren't just trying to survive anymore. They were carrying the truth, and the truth always attracted danger. They reached a tight shaft that opened into what looked like a transit tunnel, wide and reinforced with strange bone-like material. Rails ran through the center, long corroded. "This used to carry transport pods," Sayari explained. "But it's walkable now. 5 hours to the ridge base." The moment they stepped onto the track, Jace heard it, a sharp ping echoing far down the tunnel. Everyone froze out. Another ping. Metal tapping metal. "Sounds like footsteps," Rena said grimly. Sayari paled. "It's not drones." "Then what?" "The Council sends cleaners when drones fail," she said quickly. "Living assassins, cloaked, fast, silent, and not easy to kill." "Perfect," Rena muttered. They began moving faster. No one spoke. Just the sound of boots on steel and shallow breathing. The tunnel stretched endlessly, always curved, never straight. It felt like the light never changed. After nearly an hour, a small service hatch came into view. "Up there," Sayari said. "We can break and rest." It was a storage unit. Jace climbed first, then pulled her up. The space was small, filled with ancient crates and sealed barrels. The others followed, cramming together in the darkness. "Rest," Jace ordered. 15 minutes, then we keep going." They barely had 5. A soft noise like cloth brushing stone whispered from below. Then a scream. One of the younger soldiers, Carlin, vanished from the hatch opening. Snatched. Gone. Contact. Rena shouted, firing into the darkness. The air shimmered, and for a split second, something appeared. Tall, long limbs, blade-like arms folded back like mantis wings. Eyes, if it had them, burned purple for just a blink before vanishing. Jace leapt down without thinking. The tunnel echoed with snarls and static screeches. He found Carlin alive, but bleeding on the floor. Then the cleaner appeared again, fully visible now, its camouflage damaged by Rena's rifle shot. Its limbs flexed, preparing to strike. Jace stepped between it and Carlin. Raising his sidearm, the cleaner lunged. A flash siren dropped from the hatch, sliding between them and unleashing a burst of plasma from a salvaged side weapon. It struck the cleaner dead center. The alien shrieked, its skin sparking with electric burns. It twisted away and vanished into shadow again. "Move!" Jace yelled. They grabbed Carlin and ran, now full sprint down the tunnel. Behind them, the cleaner didn't chase directly, it hunted. Slow, patient, watching. "They don't like groups," Sayari said breathlessly. "They prefer picking off the weakest." "Then we stay tight," Jace growled. "Nobody gets left behind." An hour later, breathless and soaked in sweat, they burst into a massive underground dome. Light poured from cracks above. A ship old, dust-covered, but intact rested in the center. A landing bay long abandoned, swallowed by time. Jace stopped in awe. We actually made it. Sayari stumbled, then dropped to one knee. Jace caught her. You okay? She nodded. The cleaner won't come here. The old Varellan wards still protect this place, but they won't hold forever. The ship was small but functional. 2 decks, enough for 10 people. Sayari limped up the ramp while Rena and Jace searched the console. Power cells intact, Rena said. She can fly. Jace tapped the comlink panel. This ship's still linked to the old network. If we get in the air, we can beam the data to orbit Earth or Prakan channels. But both sides might trace the signal, Sayari warned. They'll know someone broke through the blackout. Jace looked at her, his voice calm. Let them come. They'll see the truth. Outside the bay, the shadows shifted again. The cleaner was waiting. The final step would not be easy. The hum of the ancient ship pulsed through the floor as the engines came online. Lights flickered across the cockpit console, half in Varellan script, half translating in real time into shaky English. Dust danced in the stale air of the landing bay, lit by thin beams of sunlight from the cracks above. Jace stood at the console, jaw tight, eyes focused. Flight systems stabilizing, engines responding. We're going up. Sayari leaned against the wall, breathing hard, her body weak from the stasis and injury, but her eyes still sharp. You only have a few seconds once the doors open. The cleaner will strike then. I know, Jace said. That's why we're going to distract it. Rena turned from the loading ramp. What kind of distraction are you thinking? You're looking at him, Jace replied. Sayari's head snapped up. No. It won't go for the ship if it thinks I have the data, Jace said. I'll draw it out. Buy you time to lift off. Beam the data to orbit once you hit altitude. Let Earth and Praka see it. You won't survive, Sayari said softly. Jace looked at her and gave a small, sad smile. Doesn't matter. This ends one way or another. If I can stop a war, it's worth it. He grabbed the small data crystal from his belt and tucked it into the pouch across his chest. Then he turned to Sayari one last time. If this works, and the world changes, make sure you live in it. She grabbed his arm. Suddenly, her touch was warm, firm. You're not dying today, she said. Then, without hesitation, she kissed him. A brief moment, but filled with something raw, something that had no place in war, but grew in the cracks between survival and sacrifice. I'm coming back for you, he said. She let go. Then run. The bay doors groaned as Rena punched. The override. Blinding light poured in. Outside, the ruined landscape of Varela Prime stretched endlessly, red dust curling into the air. Jace dashed from the ramp and ran. Within seconds, the shadow dropped. The cleaner struck the dirt with a bone-rattling thud. Blades raised, its shimmering body flickering with cloak energy. It spotted him and shrieked, its distorted voice echoing like broken glass. Jace didn't stop. He sprinted straight into the open, kicking dust into the air, yelling and waving his arms. Come on, you want it? I've got it right here. The cleaner lunged back in the cockpit. Rena strapped in and yanked the throttle. Hold tight. The ship lifted, metal grinding, landing struts groaning under the weight of years, but it flew. Sayari grabbed the comms and input the transmission command, her fingers moving with trembling speed, uploading data packet to open channel. Encryption override, broadcast initiated. Above the planet, an Earth orbital relay caught the signal. On the opposite side of the system, a Prakan command ship intercepted it too. They both saw the truth, the recordings, the hybrids, the real attackers. The secret Varellan peace project that both sides had hidden. On the ground, Jace turned sharply and skidded across a rocky ridge, forcing the cleaner to adjust its movement. It swung a blade, slicing a deep scar across the stone just inches from his side. The data crystal beeped in his chest. Pouch upload complete. Jace rolled behind a half-buried structure, pulled the crystal free, and crushed it under his boot. Too late, he whispered. It's already out. The cleaner shrieked again, enraged. It raised both arms and charged, but it never reached him. A flash of plasma burned into its back. Sayari had returned, riding one of the ship's side lifts, weapon raised. Get down, she yelled. Jace hit the dirt. Sayari fired again this time, hitting the cleaner in the chest. The warding around the landing zone had thinned, but just enough for her to slip through. The cleaner reeled back, screaming as its cloak failed, body twisting with sparks. Jace leapt up and drove his knife into the creature's core. With a final surge of strength, the cleaner screeched, then collapsed, its body twitching before going still. Jace dropped beside it, breathing hard, then looked up at her. You're supposed to be on the ship. I told you I was coming back. The roar of engines returned. The ship lowered again, and Rena shouted from the ramp, Get in, we're not waiting a third time. Jace helped Sayari up, and together they ran toward the ship. The moment they were aboard, the ramp lifted, and the craft soared into the sky, leaving the ruined base and the body of the cleaner dash behind. 1 week later, Earth and Praken. Leaders sat across from each other for the first time in over a decade. The data had shaken both empires. Neither could deny what they'd seen. Neither could cover it up now that the truth had gone viral across half the known systems. Talks had begun, quiet, careful, but hopeful. And far away from it all, on a quiet orbit station above Varela Prime, Jace stood by a window, watching the stars. Sayari walked up beside him, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. Shared showers are normal here, she whispered playfully. He smirked. You're never letting that go, are you? Not a chance. They stood in silence, side by side, not as soldier and hybrid, not as human and alien, but as something new, something the galaxy hadn't seen before. Together.